What's going on, everyone? Today on Discover the Meeple, we're going to be learning how to play The Thing, the board game, a social deduction game published by Ares Games where players will take on the role of characters from the movie trying to escape Outpost 31. But before you do, make sure you've identified who the thing is, and by that time, the thing may consist of more than one player. Before we go ahead and go over how to play, let's go over the setup. So first thing you do is you're going to lay out the board in front of you. You are going to place the weather card table based on the player count. You notice up here it has a 6. So you're going to go ahead and place that in its applicable section. You are going to put oil tokens on the generator room and the boiler room. Each start with 4. You're going to add a oil token to the left part of the track for the rescue helicopter. You're going to put 16 food tokens in the food pantry in their applicable spots. You're going to place the kennel card, notice it's a location, in the kennel location. The dogs are going to be off to the side. They will come into play at the end of the first round. You're going to put 1 damage counter on the shed and 4 in the base helicopter. You're going to set up the weapon deck. If you notice, there's a little, make that clear, yep, there's a little number there to identify when those come into play. So if you want to, you can just look at that and look for the player count that you have. In this game, we have it set up for 6, so this wouldn't come into play. Also, in the rules, it tells you how many of each card that you need to have in each deck. So once you have that set up, go ahead and put the weapon deck there. You'll do the same thing with the item deck and place that here. Then for the radio room, you're going to go ahead and put 6 damage counters there. You're going to put 14 with 6 players in the underground warehouse fuel tokens and 5 fuel tokens in the external reserve for 6 players. Next, you're going to set up the laboratory bag. So for each player, you're going to put 3 fail tokens in the bag and 2 green success tokens in the bag to start for each player. You're going to shuffle the action deck. Notice there's 3 different actions you can have that are on the other side of the card. Give those a good shuffle. You're going to give each player a character sheet. They can choose if you want, or you can do it random. Each player will get 2 roll cards. You notice that one's a human, one's a thing. We'll go over how that works. You're going to get 3 contagion tokens. Notice there's 2 human and a thing token. And each player is going to get 2 action cards to start. Notice on here, there's a sabotage and a use. There's also repair that could come up. At this point, we're going to figure out who the thing is. So, based on the player count, in this case we had 6, you're going to take that amount of dog tokens, make sure that one of them is a thing. You're going to put those in the infection bag. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to draw a token. When you draw it, go ahead and look at it. If it's this, you're a human. If you draw this from the bag, you're the thing. There can only be one thing to start. So you're going to keep that token in front of you, face down. Make sure you don't have any tell from anybody on who you are. Keep that face down until everyone's had a chance to draw. Then, once everybody knows who they are, you're going to put the applicable card in that section. So in that case, I was a human, I would put that there. If I drew the thing token, I would put the thing token there. Then everybody's going to put their token back in the bag. And you're going to add the remaining 3 tokens to the bag. You notice one's a thing and 2 are regular dogs. So you're going to add all those to the bag. Those will be used throughout the game. You're going to put the remaining damage counters in the operations room. You're going to put the rescue helicopter in its applicable spot. And then you're going to put the rest of the tokens that you'll use in the game. So these are flamethrower reloads. This is if the boiler room freezes, you'll put this thing on there. This is if there's a power failure. These are the burn location tokens. These are the thing tokens. And then whoever saw the thing last will be the first player. They'll get the leader token and the leader sheet to start. Now we're ready to play. All right, so we went over game setup. Let's go ahead and go over the general flow of each round. So what you can do is you can refer to the leader sheet. It breaks down. You can see that there are 8 different phases in each round. The first phase is weather conditions. So for weather conditions, you're going to roll the weather die. And then you're going to refer to the weather card sheet that's in the top left there. And you're going to look at the column it's associated with. So the symbol, see we got a cloud. So you're going to refer to this column. So what it says is you're going to lose 2 fuel from the boiler room and 1 fuel from the generator. So you go ahead and remove 2 fuel from the boiler room and 1 from the generator. This will come into play once there have been 3 damage tokens on the boiler room. You'll add this overlay to show that it's been destroyed, and then this will go down based on the weather die. And if it ever get to this spot, then the players lose. If 2 damage tokens would ever go here, we would lose power. And that would happen during phase 4, what would happen there, but it's also not good. So you definitely want to kind of keep track of how much fuel is in each room, and keep an eye on the damage tokens that are being acquired there. Because what's going to happen is if you end up losing it over time, these are going to start going down. So if you don't add them during the action phase, which we'll explain, for every fuel that you need to remove that's not there, you have to add a damage counter. So that's one of the ways of building up, and the other one is sabotage, which we'll explain. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on, because both of these are very important throughout the game. So the next phase on here is the alien actions. If there's a revealed alien, they'll have an opportunity to pick cards from the location deck. Notice there's all these different locations, and they'll spend their alien tokens, either these, they won't spend them, sorry, they'll put them by the location, or they could have standees, and they'll put them next to the locations that they choose. So this is like where the aliens are going to pop up during phase 4. So the thing or the group of players that are the thing get to pick which locations they're going to pop up in. They put those face down, and then they would put the counter, either it's the 1 or the 2, right next to the location. And then they'll reveal this after the players have moved in phase 4, which we'll explain. Just gives a little overview. It all makes sense a little bit. All right, on to phase 4. So, refer to the leader sheet here. You can see that during this phase, players are going to draw action cards and take character actions. So, start at the beginning of the game. The hand limit is 3 cards. If we would run out of food tokens, then we can be considered starving, and we would only draw 2 cards during this phase. But right now, we're all good. So make sure that every player has 3 cards. So at the beginning of the setup, we had 2 cards. So everybody would add another from the action deck. If you only had 1 card at the end of last round, you'd get to draw 2. So just make sure you draw up to 3. And then, starting with the player to the left of the leader, they're going to go ahead and move their character standee to a location of their choice. And then they're going to hand over an action card. They get to look at it in typical conditions. And then they get to give it to the leader. The leader doesn't look at it, and you can put it face down on the leader sheet. Everybody has an opportunity to do that. And then once the leader is done, they're going to go ahead and add a card from the action deck to the top and give it a good shuffle. At this point, if there are 2 characters, if there is an exposed alien, or if there is a dog in a location, an encounter occurs. We'll go over encounters separately. This is just a quick overview. But that's what would happen. And then the leader would take the cards from the action deck, so give them a shuffle. Let's say they had all these cards here, and then let's say players were in these different locations. They would give it a shuffle and then pick one of the cards. So this says repair. The leader has to assign this card to someone in a location. So this is actually a good example of what not to play at this point, because what you're looking to do in a repair action is you're looking to repair any room that has these damage counters. So that would include this radio room out here where the base helicopter is, the snowcat, or these if they've accumulated damage. They haven't. So in this case, if you cannot actually play it out, you still have to assign the card to somebody. So let's say you decide to assign it to the person collecting the items, because you're still not sure about this person. They would have to have their standee stand down, and then they wouldn't be able to execute their intended action for this turn. They wouldn't have a chance to. And then you could keep going. So in this case, a use card came up. The leader can assign this to any of them. So let's say that the leader assigned it to here. In this area, the players are allowed to add fuel tokens using the use card. So if one's been assigned, they can add 1 fuel token. If you notice here, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but there's a little kind of, looks like a little muscle. That is a cooperation bonus. So if there are 2 or more standing characters, so if they've already been put down for the round, they're not considered standing, a cooperation bonus can occur. So this is pretty cool. We assign this use card to it, to this location, and this player carried it out. The yellow player did. So they're going to go ahead and put their character down. You're going to take 2 fuel from the underground warehouse and add it there. The reason why you add 2 fuel is it's 1 per this, and then it's 1 additional for every other standing character in that location. Being that there was 1 here, you could add an additional 1. Each green location can have up to 3 characters, 1 dog, and 1 exposed alien. So you couldn't add 4 people there, but you could have up to 3, and those cooperation bonus would help. The generator is similar to the boiler room in that you're adding fuel tokens. You notice here, if a sabotage card would come up, and the leader was forced to assign that to that player, because they always have to assign a card. So they have to kind of look at what's out there and figure out which ones they want to, who they want to assign it to. If they had to assign it, let's say they decided to assign it there, because we've already added the 4 fuel. So this player doesn't really have as much benefit as maybe some of the other things. So in that case, the player Sandy would go down. You'd add a damage counter to this location. That's what the sabotage thing. So both of these are very similar. Like I said, if this fills up, the boiler room is destroyed. You would add this on top of it. If this filled up the 2, power is down, so you'd add this power token here. And then if that happens, then when a player is giving one of their action cards to the leader, they have to randomly give it to him. So they'd shuffle it up, give one of the cards to the leader, which could be really bad. So you definitely want to keep the power up by controlling how much damage is there. If at one point a damage would be removed, then power is restored. So it just can't have 2 damage, or it will the power will be down. In this case, though, if 3 damage counters are added there, then it would be the boiler room would be destroyed, and you wouldn't be able to fix it. And then there would be a countdown for that, which we'll go over. So those are those 2 rooms. In this room, if a use comes up, the player can draw 2 cards from the weapon deck. They get to keep 1, and then the other one, I believe they get to put to the bottom of the deck. Yeah, return the other card to the bottom of the deck. If they drew the flamethrower, they have to go ahead and place it face up, and then they'll get 6 of the reload tokens that they'll get to use throughout the game. The flamethrower is really cool. They'll put that in front of them. Otherwise, it's face down. They don't show it to anybody. In this room, this is kind of like the food area. If a used card is drawn here, then you take 2 food tokens from the pantry, added there. This food check will happen during phase 7. and then they would lie down. If a sabotage was assigned, you would lose 2 food instead. So 2 food goes away. In the laboratory, you can draw 1 lab token from the bag. These really come into play during phase 5, which we'll go over. But in this case, these are the ones that are any good, and then there would be green ones as well. Those are ones that you can actually use. But you draw it and then put it face down. Don't show it to anybody. If there was a sabotage, then you look in the bag and remove one of the success green ones. The warehouse is similar to the armory. You get to look at 2 cards, keep one, put the other one at the bottom of the deck. If you have a sabotage, you take a card out of the game for the rest of the game. That can be rough because there's only 1 flamethrower in the game, and the flamethrower is pretty strong. So if that's the card that ends up being put out, then it's going to be a little more challenging for the humans, for sure. Here, if you use a use, you can roll the weather die and then put it there. And then during phase 1, when you're rolling the weather die, you can decide to either keep what's on there, or whatever you rolled in during the phase 1. In this location, you can add a fuel either to the base helicopter or the snowcat. For the snowcat, you can look at the chart here. It requires 4 fuel to run. The base helicopter only requires 1, so if you happen to be able to add enough fuel, you're going to go ahead and put that there, and then it's fueled there for when you need it. You notice this blue section here. Any number of players can go there. If you go there, basically, if you don't like the cards in your hand, you're going to place them face down in the discard. So you can put the discard here if you want. And then you're going to choose, you're going to be able to look at the action card deck and choose which ones you want. So if you know you're really going to want some use cards, you can take 3 use if you want. And then you're going to shuffle all the cards in the discard with the action deck to form a new deck. One other thing you can do, if you don't really like, you don't want to waste your turn here, and you don't really have some good amount of cards in your hand, what you can do is you can go to a location. You can take the top card from the action deck, look at it, and then give it to the leader. So that is one other option you can do. At any point, the leader can decide to stop looking at the top card and assigning it to people. And then we would go ahead and move on to phase 5. All right, on to phase 5. So, as you can see, everybody is back at the leisure room. At this point, people can exchange weapons and items with each other, passing them face down to the players that they're interested in doing that with. Maybe some benefit from the items more than others. And then comes accusations. So, why did a sabotage card come up? Who played the sabotage card? Who played the extra repair card when we weren't going to any repair locations? This is where all that comes out. You can't show anybody your cards. You can't tell anybody what's in your hand. You can say what you played that turn. And yeah, just try to figure out who is the most suspicious. Why did you move there where I was already at? I already said I was going to do that. You just potentially exposed me to, because I'm not sure what you are, that kind of thing. So at that point, that all happens. And then once everybody's had a chance to talk, the leader's going to say 3, 2, 1, and then each player has an opportunity. They may point at another character. They can choose not to. They just don't point. But let's say that blue moved up, was pointed at twice. So they move up 2 on the suspicion track, 1 per player that pointed at them. Orange, same thing happened, and then red, got 1 vote, and then 1 person decided not to vote. So that's what it turned out like in a 6-player game. And at that point, we move on to phase 6, where you can conduct tests. You can conduct 1 type as a group of each test. There is a blood test. So if someone had went to the laboratory during phase 4 and was able to get one of the green success blood tokens, they could decide to flip it face up and play it, and they could test anyone that is on the highest part of the suspicion track. So let's say they decided to test blue. Blue would flip over their card face up. You can see it's still human. See, nothing to worry about. Blue would move their suspicion track all the way to the end there, and now they're in the green area because we know that for now they're definitely good. If they become exposed later by another player, they would have to move it up. We'll explain that, but for now they're good. If they had exposed as an alien instead, then if they were the leader sheet will pass over to the player to the left of them. They remove their character from the game, so their standee goes away. They discard any cards they had or tokens, like lab tokens. All those are discarded face down. And then, based on the player count, so in a 6-player game, you take the player count, divide by 2, and collect that many thing tokens. So in a 6-player game, you get 3. In a 5-player game, you get 2, rounded because it's rounded down. And then you could assign those tokens to locations during phase 3, and try to pop out where you think people are going to be at. So that's phase 6. Phase 7 is food consumption. So if somebody had went and collected food the previous round, at that point, you would spend the food and go away from the game. If nobody had gotten any food last round, you would actually take 4 tokens, 4 food from the game. So it might be something to definitely keep in mind. If for some reason there was only 1 token, I think there's a character that only takes 1, you could just use that as long as it's been moved here. And then everybody doesn't go hungry that round. As a reminder, if all these tokens are gone, group starves, and then discard down to 2 cards. And they only have 2 cards at any time for the rest of the game. Last phase is dog movement and leader change. As explained at the beginning of the game, the dogs start off the board. At this point, if you had to, you would shuffle the location cards. And then you would play a card, and this represents where 1 dog will go. So 1 dog would go to the armory. Dog would go to the base helicopter. Go to the generator room. One would go to the shed. Okay, and then you're going to draw 1 last one. Kitchen. The leader token will go to the kitchen. Someone decides to go there next round. First person to do it gets the leader token. And you would do the leader change at this phase. So I wanted to spend a little bit more time on a few different parts of the game. The first one I wanted to go over was the weapons and the items. So to kind of walk through some of these different ones, there is the dynamite and the Molotov cocktail. So what that means, the symbols down here, you can spend this to burn a location or to damage a revealed alien in the location you're at, and then you use the dynamite in this case, or the Molotov cocktail in this case. I'll explain a little bit more. An encounter with a revealed alien in the encounter section of this, and I'll explain why you'd want to burn down a room as well in a separate one. But when you burn down a room, you no longer can use it, but at some point you might need to do that. So that's just what these things do. You can tell from the symbols down here. The flamethrower can be pretty nice. It allows you to burn a location, take a strength away from a revealed alien, or avoid an encounter, and you'll spend one of the tokens. And you start with 6. You'll spend one of those tokens in order to do one of those. There are several melee weapons. They have similar icons. And so what that does is you can spend the melee weapon, so you use it out of the game, to avoid an encounter with another character. We'll explain encounters in the next one. Firearm allows you to avoid an encounter, but you don't have to spend it, which can be nice. It doesn't do anything for revealed aliens, but it does allow you to continually avoid encounters with other people, not including dogs, obviously. You have the keys, which come in handy for leaving out of the base helicopter or the snowcat. We'll go over that in the victory conditions part. You have the wire, which can be combined with the flamethrower to test people during phase 5. So there's 2 different types of tests. You can use it. You can test with the blood bank, or you can test with the flamethrower and the wire. And you don't need to have someone at the top of the track, so you can test anybody, including yourself, at that point. The flashlight allows you during power outage, typically you have to you have to play a card randomly during the action phase. The flashlight allows you to look at them still, because you're able to see what's going on. Additionally, that special action that you discard your hand, you look up one card and give it to the leader in order to have an opportunity to take an action. Here, it allows you to take 2 cards and look at them and choose one of them to give to the leader. This oil fuel tank allows you to add a fuel to the location you're at as a free action. It doesn't cost you your turn, so you can just play it. And then this one allows you to repair a location that you're at. Again, being a free action, so you'd have to look for the places that have the little X's, the damage tokens already, and you could place that. The next thing I wanted to go over was go over encounters. I think it's best to start with phase 3, where the revealed aliens would take their actions. As a reminder, during that phase, any revealed alien or which could be one player or multiple players, will decide, the group, where they want to spend or where they want to allocate their tokens. So in this case, for this example, they're going to go to the base of the helicopter, so they don't share that with anybody else. They'll put their tokens next to the location card that they choose, or location cards. If they choose multiple locations, they have to have at least one strength go to it. Phase 4 happens. The humans will carry out the drawing of the cards, moving to location, giving a card to the leader, and then the revealed alien will reveal where they decided to go. So in this case, they decided to go to the base helicopter. So they put their strength tokens here, and we would resolve any location that has revealed aliens. So let's go over the different scenarios that could happen. So in this case, we look at the strength. The strength is 2 and 1. And each human character has a strength of 1. As a reminder, for any green location, you can only have 3 human characters, a dog, and a revealed alien. That's the max amount you can have. So in this case, the alien has a strength of 3. The humans have a strength of 2. So the aliens have a higher strength. They can decide to either assimilate a human. When they do that, they take the human off the board and they add another token to their strength pile. So you notice here, as on the other side, it says strength 2. So if you want to, you can flip it over. You can grab a standee, any of that. You could also decide to assimilate a dog. So if you did that, this just goes off, and now you have that same idea, the same kind of strength. Or you could sabotage the location. So it's kind of based on the location. This little sabotage thing here has an idea. So what you would do is, based on your strength level, so in this case it was 3, they could apply 3 damage to this area. In this case, there's only 2 available, so they would add the 2 tokens. So that's kind of like the main things they can do. They can assimilate a dog or a player, or they can use a sabotage location. In the armory, it's getting rid of cards from the game. So any of those things are fair game. Let's say that the revealed alien, it only played 2 strength there. At that point, the alien would run away. So it just does that. And the human players would go face down into the leisure rooms, so their actions aren't available that turn. The other thing that could happen, let's say that the alien had less strength than the characters. At that point, the alien runs away and the characters can carry out their action. So in this case, first you would resolve the dog. With 2 or more players, the dog would go to the kennel. And then you would execute the contagion check for these 2 players. If nobody has any weapons that help, like a firearm or a melee weapon, or they decide not to use them, you would go through the contagion check that we explained, where each player will pick 2 tokens. The human players have to pick the human tokens. The alien players can use 2 human or an alien and a human. They pass it. The other player picks one of them, and then depending on what happens, like if the player that was an alien drew an alien token, now they're an alien player. As a reminder, you take both cards, you shuffle them, you put whatever you are now, and then you have the other one in a different spot or below that card. Additionally, each player that had a contagion check would move 1 space up. So, yeah, purple, and yellow would move up too, as an example. If it was just a player and a dog, you would draw a token from the contagion bag. In this case, we drew an alien dog, so we would again have to, whoever the player was, shuffle the cards, pick the one we are, and have the other one off to the side. That's another way of becoming an alien. Some other things that might come into play: if there is, let's say that there was the first scenario where there was a 3 strength of the revealed alien and 2 strength of the human, but the human had a Molotov cocktail, a dynamite, or a flamethrower. At that point, the player could decide to use one of those. In the case of a flamethrower, they would discard one of these tokens. They get 6 to start, and then they would be able to damage or take away 1 damage counter, 1 strength counter of the revealed alien, and then the alien would run away. The Molotov cocktail and the dynamite work similar. In that case, same thing happens, but you spend the card, it's out of the game. So those are some different things with revealed aliens. With the melee, you could decide to spend it to avoid an encounter with another character. So if you know that there's a one that's very suspicious, if you are collecting items, there's a way just to spend it and then you're avoiding it. Or if you have a firearm, you can avoid the encounter with another player, and you don't have to spend it. So those can be nice. All right, so in this video, I'm going to be bouncing around a little bit, but it's going to make sense. Just bear with me there. So, as I had mentioned, phase 1 is rolling the weather die. So, things that can happen during the game. We really didn't go over these in detail. I want to give an opportunity to go over these and explain game end conditions. So, one thing that could happen is if you add 3 damage counters to the boiler room. Boiler room is destroyed, and now it has this overlay above it. This can happen either from sabotage, either sabotage card, revealed aliens, or if during the weather you're to remove fuel tokens based on the number. So in this case, if you had to do that, you have to remove 3. And there were no fuel tokens here to remove, you would add a damage counter for each one that was not there. So if you had 1 fuel token, you would add, in that scenario, you would add 2 damage and get rid of the 1 fuel. Once this is in play, you put that over top, and then you're going to put this little marker here at the start of the track. During each future round, when you roll, depending on what the result you roll, so in the sun or the cloud, you're going to move this track down 1 space. It kind of acts as a timer. You roll that one, you move it 2 spaces. If it ever gets all the way here, then the humans lose. So that's one way of the humans losing. But a player during the action phase can decide to play a dynamite or a Molotov cocktail to burn a room wherever they're at. So if the person was here in the armory, they could discard that to burn the room. They would return their character to the leisure room, face down, and the leader would get rid of the top action card from the leader sheet. And then they would be able to move this back to the start. So that's, if the boiler room's destroyed, that's a way of moving it back to the start. For the rest of the game, you can no longer use that room. And in the location deck, you would remove the armory. As a reminder, if the generator gets 2 damage counters on there, lose power, and then during the action you have to give a card to the leader randomly. So that's one way of the humans losing. I think now is a good opportunity to go over this last item on the weather card sheet. So how that comes into play is if in the radio room a use card is played, the leader gives the player a use card, and there's no damage on there, the SOS signal comes out, and the helicopter goes on the track. During future rounds, when you roll the weather die, depending on the result, you're going to move the helicopter up that many spaces. So if it's sun, you'll move it up 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's really nice. And if it gets to the end of the track, it initiates a way for the humans to win. Each turn, you got to move the fuel token down 1. If it ever reaches the end of the track, you run out of fuel, and you can no longer use that rescue helicopter escape route to win. But if it does get to the end of the track, you wouldn't move it up based on the weather die, but each round you would move it down 1. If later this room gets damage counters, it's all right. it's already sent the SOS signal, so you don't have to worry about it as much in that case. Other ways the humans can escape is if either the base helicopter or the snow cat have no damage counters on it. The area has been fueled, so spending a use card to add a fuel. In this case, the base helicopter only needs 1 fuel. The snowcat needs 4 fuel. So you would most likely have to do this over multiple rounds, but maybe there's 3 human characters there. You can use the cooperation bonus. Maybe you're able to knock those out quick, but unlike the radio tower, in order to escape, there needs to be no damage to either one of those locations. If there's no damage and the player that's there has the keys in either the base helicopter or the snowcat, if the leader gives them a use card, so let's just say the use card was played here, they could attempt to escape in either of those spots. So let's go ahead and go through an escape thing. The rescue helicopter is similar. If it gets to the end of the track, it also has an opportunity for the humans to escape. The rules on that one's a little bit different, but let's go ahead and go over these 2 scenarios. So if the leader gives a use card, plays a use card to a player, they attempt to escape. And then, based on the position of the remaining characters in the game, whoever's the least suspected, so in this case the blue player, has an opportunity to join the helicopter escaping. But it's up to the player that's already on board whether to allow them or not. So in this case, blue is not suspicious at all, so that'd be an easy decision. Add them to the helicopter. Blue would reveal their whatever affiliation they had, so they'd be human. Goes face up. Now they're on there. And then it would go to the next set of groups. So in this case, there's purple, black, and green. So you would ask purple. Well, if you felt okay about purple, the players that are already on the helicopter, the snowcat, or the rescue helicopter could bring purple along if they want to, but they have to agree. And then they keep going. So then the black player would have an opportunity. The white player, tokens aren't exactly right there, but the white player have an opportunity if they were low suspicion. So it keeps going to that. Remembering each time somebody's added a helicopter, they reveal their affiliation. If any thing characters were revealed during this step because they were allowed to go in the helicopter, the humans lose. If the alien, the thing character, is the first one to go on any of these things because the leader gives them a card, the humans lose. If the aliens assimilate all the characters, either through the contagion check or through eating them during the revealed alien, and I think technically the the contagion check, because they're still considered, they're not revealed aliens yet, so they could reveal during phase 5. It would still go until everybody revealed and showed that they were aliens or dead. Aliens win. Or if at some point this they decide to leave with the helicopter, the snowcat, or the rescue helicopter, and there's a human still on the base, humans lose. So the key thing with any of these 3 escape routes for the humans to win, they need to make sure that they're the only humans are on any of those things, and all the aliens are left behind. So that's the only way for the humans to win. If one human is left behind, humans lose.